Oh, hey. Well, hey again. It's me in the corner of the room. I feel like I haven't explored every single thing with you with my record collection. I actually like a lot more things other than metal. In fact, I actually am wearing a shirt of someone that I really, really like, and that is Kacey Musgraves. You can see her there. There she is. But yes, I'm actually a big fan of a lot of other genres, and so that's what we're going to go explore. We're going to explore part 2 of my little video here of my complete vinyl collection. I hope you enjoyed my last one where I mostly talked about metal for the most part, and I really enjoyed a lot of your comments, and so let's just jump into part 2 and see all the other genres that I like and some of the other records I have, and maybe you can make some recommendations for me because that would be really cool. So anyway, let's just check it out. Alright, so where we last left off, we actually talked about metal in the last video, so today I actually wanted to kind of show you the rest of the genres, and I think fitting at first, since this is a movie channel, I would actually like to show you initially what my movie score and movie soundtracks are. So actually talk about that for a second, and let these fall over, and I'm just going to pick it up. But the first thing I'll show you right here is the Star Wars box set. This is the first 6 films, and this is the John Williams. Let's see, get that a little bit better. So anyway, this is just the giant big box set. John Williams has a legendary score here, from, you know, the Cantina Band all the way to Duel of the Fates. This is from Phantom Menace all the way to Return of the Jedi, and so there's a lot of really great things in here, and John Williams has a legendary score, as probably everyone knows who's checking this out. So next we're actually going to move on to my favorite Hans Zimmer score, and that is an Interstellar. That is a Christopher Nolan film that I really, really love, and I think this film has a fantastic score that is really ambient and just has a lot of awesome elements to it that are just really hard to come by, and honestly I've never really explored in any other type of film, and so that's why I love so much about it. It's a really great score. Honestly, I recommend checking it out if you have not listened to it, and then or watch the movie. Next, we're actually moving on to The Revenant, and this is a really, really great film by Alejandro Iñárritu, and the music is, I'm going to butcher this because it's a Japanese name, Ryuichi Sakamoto, and then Alvo Nota, and then additional music by Bryce Dessner. So this is a really, really great film, a really, really great score as well, because it's just super ambient and calm, and it's like a kind of western in Canada, and it's just really, really gorgeous, and it's got a gorgeous transparent element to it as well. Moving on from there actually is to a classic film, Seven Samurai. Akira Kurosawa, the music is by Fumio Hayasaka, and it's just it's a legendary film, of course, and it's got a really great score as well. I hope you can see all of that. And so, but anyway, really great score. I need to spin it again because it's really good. But it's a great film as well. It's one of those perfect films, actually. And the next is a really great score by Johnny Greenwood, and There Will Be Blood. God, Day No Plain View. One of my favorite movies of all time, and what a great, great score. It's a really great Western type of score that has all elements of everything a part of it. And I don't know. It's something. Johnny Greenwood's from Radiohead. He has done a lot of things with Paul Thomas Anderson, and this is just one of those perfect examples of what he's done. Moving from there, we're actually moving on to one of my more terrifying scores, and I think it's the last score we'll talk about. Yeah, it's the last score we'll talk about, and that is The Witch. This is a really terrifying score that I don't put on too often, but this is a score by Mark Corvin, and this is just a fantastic movie if you haven't seen The Witch. It's a really terrifying film and a really terrifying score as well. So if you haven't checked out any of those movies I just talked about, all of those movies have really great scores. So we're actually moving on from the movie soundtracks and scores that I only have a few of to classic rock. So a lot of these are probably going to be pretty well known, or a couple of them that you probably know who they are. First one is David Bowie and Hunky Dory. This is a really great classic album of his from the 70s. I really, really love this particular album, and it's just something I've spun multiple times, and it's just a classic album, as you know. And then I would say probably his most legendary album, at least in my book, is David Bowie, The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust. I mean, you look at that iconic cover, it's fantastic, and Spiders from Mars, of course. This has a million awesome just songs on it, from
you know, Starman, Moonage, Daydream, It Ain't Easy, Ziggy Stardust, of course, and just amazing stuff. So you know who David Bowie is. And the last thing he really put out before he passed, unfortunately, was Black Star. It came out actually not too long ago, before he passed. It was literally like a month before he passed. But this is a really great final kind of thing he did that I really, really love. It's really experimental too for him. And I don't know, it's just something that is just really, really great and really experimental as well. Lazarus is a really great song on this particular album, but if you haven't checked out that, you should check out that David Bowie record because it's really, really great too. So moving on from David Bowie is to the only 2 Chicago records I really listened to. The first one is actually Chicago Transit Authority, which is actually the first Chicago record. This came out in the late 60s, and this is the album that kind of put Chicago on the map prior to changing their name to just Chicago. This was Chicago Transit Authority, and this is actually my favorite record of theirs because it got a little bit poppier a little down the road. Speaking of poppy, the most poppy album of theirs is Chicago 5 right here, which is probably one of the more iconic records of theirs. Saturday on the Park is in this record, and it's a good album. So moving on from Chicago is a really great progressive rock band, again from the late 60s, and that is King Crimson, In the Court of the Crimson King. Now this is a really great record, and if you recognize that album cover, I mean, it's pretty legendary. It's a really great album, and it's really, really fantastic, and it's got just lots of really crazy things to it. So check out this album if you have not listened to King Crimson, In the Court of the Crimson King. It's an amazing and really ahead of its time. It's insane. So moving on from King Crimson is actually my favorite band of all time. That's Led Zeppelin, and I have quite a few of Led Zeppelin's albums, so let's just go through it real quick. I have Led Zeppelin 1, this is the first Led Zeppelin album. Good Times, Bad Times, just opening up the record and just kind of solidifying what Zeppelin sounds like. Moving on from there, we have Led Zeppelin 2. I have Led Zeppelin 3, really great record as well. And then their most iconic record, Led Zeppelin 4, Stairway to Heaven and the like are on this particular album. Then my personal favorite record of Led Zeppelin is Houses of the Holy. I really love this record. And then I actually don't have any other records of Led Zeppelin. My next one that I really want to get is Physical Graffiti. I'm probably going to get them all eventually, but those are probably the best 6 records of theirs. I would say so. But anyway, we're actually moving on from Led Zeppelin to Pink Floyd, another legendary classic rock band that I really, really love. This is a progressive rock band. The first album I actually ever picked up was this, The Wall. And when I say the first album I ever picked up, I'm actually talking about the first CD. First CD I ever picked up when I was a 7-year-old kid that I ever bought myself was the double album of The Wall. This is a legendary classic rock album, and it's kind of introduced me to the concept album, honestly. So I really loved just how Pink Floyd conjured up Hey You, Another Brick in the Wall, and just a million other songs on this. Is anyone out there? There's just a lot of really great songs on this particular record. And then we're actually moving on to my favorite record of theirs. I actually have this a little out of order when they came out, which is a little weird for me. But my favorite record of Pink Floyd is actually Animals. This is, in my opinion, the best thing that Pink Floyd's ever done. This is a little bit more folky, mixed with a little bit more progressive rock elements. This has animals, sheep, dogs, and pigs, and all different varieties in this particular album. It's just a perfect album in my opinion. This is one of the best albums of all time, 100% hands down. And then the other Pink Floyd album I have is actually one of their older ones. It's kind of the start of the John Waters era, kind of near the beginning, and that's Meddle, as in M-E-D-D-L-E, not metal, but and Meddle. And this has actually their longest song on it, which is a really fantastic banger. If you haven't checked out Meddle, you should listen to this Pink Floyd record. It's really fantastic. I'm actually planning on getting Dark Side of the Moon and Wish You Were Here and a couple of other Pink Floyd records, maybe all of them eventually, from their very beginning with Syd Barrett, possibly all the way to the very last thing they did. But who knows? And then I would say, let's see, we only have a few more classic rock records. One of them is Queen's Greatest Hits, This has just a lot of really great Queen hits. I don't really have any particular album of theirs. I'd like to get Night of the Opera, but this has a lot of really great stuff on it. And then the final classic rock album I want to show you is Yes, and that is Fragile. This is got Roundabout on it. I really love, as you can probably tell, progressive rock and progressive metal. And so this is kind of the foundation for a lot of this stuff, and I really love Yes. It's really, especially the early stuff. And this is just a perfect album. It's got a really, really great song on it. So we're actually moving on from there to a lot of different types of music here, from different elements, and I'll probably just mention the genre as I go through it. The first band I'll talk about is Anathema. This is a British doom metal band that turned into a progressive rock band. This is actually the album where they switched styles a little bit, and that's Judgment. This came out in the early 2000s. This is a fantastic record, and if you haven't heard Anathema, this is kind of the start of where they kind of adapted to their sound. It's really gorgeous and really beautiful. I love it. Actually, the next thing I want to show you is a record store exclusive, and this is actually one of my favorite records of all time. When I say that, I mean like just it's stunning just to see in person. That's got a picture disc right there. This is actually just 2 songs off of Weather Systems, which is my favorite Anathema record. And that's Untouchable Part 1 and 2. And it's kind of my introduction to the band back in the day. And I just really, really, really took to this particular band. And this is actually the band that probably expanded my horizons on what it meant to listen to rock and metal in general, and why I kind of explored other options and avenues. So this is a really fantastic little exclusive I have. And then another thing I have by Anathema is Everything's Falling, because this is what happens when you don't show 2 things too often, is a live album, a sort of homecoming. This is a really cool triple album, I want to say. Maybe 4 albums are in this. Yeah, it's a triple album, but it has a lot of different songs of theirs. If you haven't listened to Anathema, this is a really great British modern progressive rock band. This is a band that you should check out. So Anathema is really fantastic. Next, we're actually going to move on to a really nice kind of post-rock band, and that's Balmorhea. And this is All Is Wild, All Is Silent. This is a really just gorgeous soundtrack I like to put on in the background. It just makes me feel really calm and just relaxed. And yeah, I don't know, just something really, really great. Balmorhea, you should check them out if you haven't. I don't know if they're still a band, but this is my favorite record of theirs. Next, we're going to move on to a band that's pretty popular on Sub Pop and is a really, really great modern band, and that is Beach House. This is Bloom. This is probably my favorite record of theirs. This came out back in like 2012, I want to say. And it's just, I don't know, it's just one of those artists that really stuck out, and they've put out just solid effort after solid effort after solid effort before and after this. And so Bloom, if you haven't checked out Beach House, you should check them out, because it's just gorgeous, and it's just good music. And then the last thing I have by Beach House, I think right here, is Depression Cherry, and this is another kind of just velvet album of theirs. It's got a really cool velvet carpet kind of feel to it. Really cool. Can't really tell on video, but it's really good. And it's a really good effort of theirs. And then next, I'm actually going to show you a local Springfield artist from Springfield, Missouri. They actually have changed their name to Izabel Crane, but Belladonna. This is a really great kind of Ozarks jazz mixed in with like a 1920s kind of sound and kind of that Ozarks folk element to it. It's really, really great. And if you haven't checked them out, check out Izabel Crane, and I'll put that right down here in some kind of capacity, or Belladonna. I'll even put this record out on Spotify. Both of them are on Spotify, I believe, so you should check this out if you haven't. It's really great. It's really great stuff. Next, we're going to move on to stuff I talked about in the last vinyl video I made, not the one before this one, but when I came back from Seattle. That is Better Oblivion Community Center. This is with Phoebe Bridgers and Connor Oberst. I talked a little bit about that, but Phoebe Bridgers is one of my favorite people right now, kind of in the indie rock folk scene, and this is actually her first record right after that, Stranger in the Alps, that came out a couple years ago. And it's just fantastic, and it's gorgeous, and sounds beautiful. Check out Phoebe Bridgers, check out Better Oblivion Community Center, and probably check out some Connor Oberst. I don't really know too much about him, but I really like Phoebe Bridgers and that stuff. So I like that. Next, we're actually going to move on to some really, really great 1950s sounding music, and I'm sure some of you know who that is. That's Leon Bridges. This is Coming Home. This is his first album. His second album sounds a little bit different than this album in particular, but this one just sounds like super old school, and it sounds like straight from the 1950s soul. That's literally what it sounds like, and it's super smooth, and it's fantastic, and I absolutely love it. If you haven't checked out Leon Bridges, you should check him out because he has a classic sound to him and in a modern context. So it's really, really great. And then we're actually going to move on from that to Lana Del Rey, who's one of the more famous people on in my record collection. Lana Del Rey's Ultraviolence is probably my favorite thing she's ever put out. She's got some really great output as well. And I mean, you probably know who Lana Del Rey is if you haven't heard her before. She's actually about to put out a new album of hers, if not out very, very soon. It's going to be a little bit like this in my listens to a couple of the singles that I've heard so far. So if it's more like this, I'm going to be happy because this is actually my favorite type of music that Lana's ever put out. Next is actually an artist from Arkansas that I really, really like. It's kind of a folk country kind of sound to it, and that is Adam Faucett. And this is Blind Water. And this is Blind Water Finds Blind Water, and this is a really, really great output of his. He just is beautiful, his voice. He's just a really hilarious man. Actually, a former coworker of mine is really, really good friends with him, and just introduced me to him. He comes to Springfield sometimes, and I really like him. If you haven't listened to Adam Faucett, I'll also put that in the description below. I'll probably put down a little bit of some of the names and some of the artists that I think haven't really been explored, or most of my viewers might not know about, down in the description down below. But Adam Faucett is one of them. Really, really great stuff. Alright, so moving on from there, we're actually going to a progressive rock band from Norway that's really, really great. I could have put them in the metal section, but I didn't. And that is Gazpacho, and they, just like the Soup, it's a really, really great indie rock slash alternative rock. It's got some art house stuff to it, but it's really cinematic as well. Gazpacho, this is one of their first albums. This is Night, and this is an amazing album from start to finish. If you ever listen to any of Gazpacho's stuff, you need to listen to it conceptually as a complete album. This is one of the albums that you need to listen to the whole way through. Now, his vocals kind of sound Muse-esque, so if you know the band Muse, it sounds a little bit like that, but it's actually better in my opinion. But Night, there's only 5 songs on it, and it's pretty long. It's like 50 minutes. So, but it's gorgeous. Night is a really great record of theirs. I also have a few other records of theirs. March of Ghosts, and this is another really great album of theirs. Has a lot of really great singles on it. Some of my favorite Gazpacho songs are on this particular record itself, from Gold Star to Mary Celeste and to Black Lily, just to name a few. My favorite record of Gazpacho to hear conceptually is Demon. This is another really good album to listen to from start to finish. It's just it's the album that really got me in love with this band. But Demon is so fucking good. So good. And then the last thing I'll show you from Gazpacho is their second to last album, Moloch. And it's another really great conceptual album. Has a really great story attached to it, and about the end of the world and some really crazy shit. So anyway, Gazpacho, listen to them if you haven't heard them. They're really fantastic, and it's right up my alley, and hopefully it's up yours as well. Up yours, not funny. But next we're actually going to move on to a pretty famous band. One of the latest things I picked up was Glass Animals. This is Zaba. This is the first album of theirs. I like Glass Animals quite a bit. They're pretty good. So you've heard them before, I'm sure. But they're a pretty crazy band. Next is a band that pretty much everybody who ever collects records probably knows who they are, and that is Godspeed You Black Emperor. Now this is probably one of the more famous ones. This is Lift Your Skinny Fists Like Antennas to Heaven. This is one of the most famous records probably to date, and it's just a really, really fantastic album. If you are familiar with Mogwai or Explosions in the Sky, this is like this is like their father or something. This is a really great Canadian band, Godspeed You Black Emperor. It's post-rock, it's cinematic, it's experimental, it's pretty much everything you can think of in music and things that are not music. It's hard to explain. If you haven't heard Godspeed You Black Emperor, this is a pretty good place to start. Honestly, the album before this, which is their first one, has it's got a lot of different letters and numbers attached to it. I can't remember what it's called, but I know the cover of it, and that's what matters. Moving on from there, we're actually going to talk about a guy who's pretty famous in the indie rock scene, and that is Damien Jurado, and that's Visions of Us on the Land. This is a really, really fun album, and it's really trippy as well. It's got some stoner rock and some really chill vibes attached to it, and so it's a fun, easy listening, kind of just chill album that I listen to sometimes. And last time we actually I talked a little bit about this Russian band, Kauan, and this is their latest output, Kaiho, and this is one of the most gorgeous albums I've ever heard, and it's just such a fantastic record. If you have not listened to a Kauan, it's cinematic, it sounds like a score, it sounds really gorgeous, it's layered in so many different elements, and it's just so beautiful. And I know you really can't tell with the glare and how everything looks, but like, this is a really fantastic album. If you haven't listened to that, you should check that out. Moving on from there, we are pulling out the Mars Volta. This is actually one of my latest things I picked up, Live at the Electric Ballroom. Mars Volta records are really hard to find, and I'm actually hoping to get most of Mars Volta's records, but this is a live album of theirs. I actually have not spun it yet, but I'm really excited to listen to it because this is most of the Comatorium. This is most of the songs on Deloused. I think this is almost all the songs on Deloused. And Deloused is probably the best record that Mars Volta has ever done, so if you know that. Next, from there, we're actually going to talk about a really legendary band, Massive Attack and Mezzanine. This album is a trip-hop kind of legend, and this, in the 90s, trip-hop was really, really huge. If you've seen the show House, you probably recognize the third song on this album, and it's just fantastic. I really wish that trip hop would kind of exist again. I know there are some things like DJ Tricky does some stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that still exists, but it's not to the level of what it used to be with Portishead and Massive Attack and stuff like that. But if you haven't listened to that, you should. My records are falling, so let's just keep going from there. Next I have Monster Rally's Mystery Cove. I have only heard of this. It's kind of easy listening too. It's pretty great stuff, along the lines of Damien Jurado, but a little bit more easy listening. From there, just the start of my shirt that I had, Kacey Musgraves' Golden Hour, the CMA's, well actually just the album of the year, the Grammy one. This is such a fantastic record, and this actually is the album that made me really realize that Kacey Musgraves is just a fantastic songwriter, and this is such a happy album, and it puts me in such a great mood every time I listen to it. And if you don't like Kacey Musgraves, then too bad. I love metal and Kacey Musgraves. That's just how it goes. We're going to move on from there to The National, which is a really, really great band that I'm pretty sure you all heard of. But National Alligators is probably one of my favorite records of theirs. They're a really, really great band that has a lot of angst and depression and melancholic kind of feels attached to it, but it's really great stuff. Really, really great work. Another thing that I got from them is High Violet, another really great album of theirs right here. And then the last thing I have by The National is Trouble Will Find Me. This is actually the first album I listened to by them, and it really got me on the map. I was actually really hesitant to listen to them until a friend of mine showed me this particular album, and then I started listening to them a lot more, and I'm like, this is a really great band, and honestly, I want to listen to more of their albums. And they have like 5 almost perfect albums, and those are 3 of them that I just showed you. I missed Boxer and one other album that I'm just literally blanking on right now. Now we're going to move on to Andy Samberg's wife, who I actually did not know is in Inherent Vice, and also did not know that they were husband and wife, and that is Joanna Newsom. So this is Milk-Eyed Minder. I talked a little bit about that in my Seattle video. This is her first album. This is the one I've listened to the least probably amount. Next is the album I've probably listened to the most, and that is Why Yes. This is a really, really great record of hers. She's got like a really quirky side to her. She's very unique. She's a harpist and a pianist. She has a very unique voice and is just one of the best lyricists I have ever seen, ever, just period. I also have One on Me, which is a really great double album. It's like a 2-hour long album. It's really, really great. And then her latest output, which is Divers, which is actually my introduction to her, with really gorgeous cinematography and photo stills inside this particular album itself. But it's really great stuff. Joanna Newsom, you should check her out. She's also in Inherent Vice, which is really cool. A P.T. Anderson film. I know I talked a little bit about There Will Be Blood because I have that record. But if you have not checked out Joanna Newsom, you should check her out and give her a chance because she's a grower. When it comes to listening to her, she definitely sounds a little interesting and unique. But like I said, if it makes sense to you, it makes sense to you, and that's what matters. So moving on from there, we actually got a Icelandic band that's really, really famous. They've actually been in Game of Thrones. They've done How to Train Your Dragon soundtracks and different other things like that, and that is SIgur Ros. This is their Untitled record, which is probably my favorite album of theirs. This came out quite a while ago. Got a nice little hair in there. And this has 8 untitled tracks on it, and really hard to describe them. Really atmospheric, blend of words that Jonesy, who is the lead singer and one of the instrumentalists in the band, he blends Icelandic and words that actually are made up, and it's really, really cool. Iceland has a lot of really great stuff, from Bjork to SIgur Ros to a lot of other bands that like Agent Fresco. I don't have their record on me. I'm literally blanking right now, and I'm seeing it. I'll think about it, and I'll probably put it right here. But anyway, SIgur Ros is one of those bands. This is the latest output of theirs. The last time they did, really before they really started just doing scores pretty much all the time now. But this is a really, really great album of theirs right here. This is, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but Kevakur or something like that. That's how you say it. SIgur Ros, really great band. Check them out, and check out all those other Icelandic bands as well. Next, we're going to move on to a band that from the 90s that I talked a little bit about last time in my Seattle trip. Slowdive, really, really great stuff. Slovaki, really classic album of theirs. Really, really great. If you haven't checked out Slowdive, you should, because it's just fantastic. And then we're gonna get to my classical section. I actually have a very small section. I only have like 2 albums that are classical, and they're both Stravinsky's. Stravinsky conducts Le Sacre du Printemps. This is The Rite of Spring. Colombian Symphony Orchestra. This is really great stuff. This was a gift from a friend. I really, really loved it because I love Stravinsky. Actually, he aligns most with metal in my opinion, so that's why I like him so much. And then another Stravinsky I have is the Firebird Suite. I have some Tchaikovsky as well, Romeo and Juliet, and then Leonard Bernstein conducting the New York Philharmonic right here, the Firebird and Tchaikovsky. Really great stuff. I love it. And then we're gonna move on from there to a metal band, actually. I know it's over here, but this sounds like Depeche Mode and Nine Inch Nails and metal combined. It's really, really strange. But Ulver. This is the assassination of Julius Caesar. And this is the latest output of theirs. They are a former black metal band. So yes, if you haven't checked out black metal from my last video, black metal sounds very harsh and unique and has blast beats and shrieked vocals. But anyway, this is a band from Norway that has changed their sound over and over again and has only gotten better, or has just you have a different palette or different taste for the day for Ulver, and you can just check out anything of theirs and it will sound different, and I love it. This is a really, really great album of theirs. This is really, really unique, and if you haven't listened to it, Assassination of Julius Caesar, that's the one to listen to in my opinion if you want to have an introduction to Ulver, and then check out some of their metal stuff. It's really funny. Next, we're actually going to move on to a jazz record, a triple album. It's actually the debut album of Kamasi Washington, and this is just aptly named The Epic. And this is actually a cool concept record about a samurai who is guarding this particular temple. And this is just a really, really fantastic long record. I actually read The Brothers Karamazov all summer a couple years back. to this entire record several times. So I know this record pretty well, and actually I put it on in the background a lot of the times. But I actively listen to this as well, and it's just phenomenal. And Kamasi has put out a lot of really great stuff from Heaven to Earth. His stuff is expensive, so I only have this particular first album of his first. Next is actually my favorite album that came out in either 14 or 15. My legs are cracking. And that is a post-metal band. I have it over here because it sounds like post-rock, but that is We Lost the Sea, and that is Departure Songs. This is actually a really important record for me because this is a very sad record. The lead singer of We Lost the Sea used to be a metal band, still are a metal band, but they're an instrumental metal band now. They used to have a singer, but he committed suicide a few years back, and the band created this album kind of in remembrance of him and of all the people who have died and sacrificed themselves for the better of humanity. And this particular album explores several of those tales. The last one being the Challenger. So like you have, the Challenger that exploded, and Reagan gave that speech. We also have a Gallant Gentleman. This is one of the first Antarctic explorations where the captain kind of gave his life to keep his crew alive when resources were dwindling. The Last Dive of David Shaw. This is a diver who went after another fellow diver who got lost in this underground cavern, who clearly died, but the family wanted to retrieve the body, so David Shaw sacrificed himself, getting both of them back up, but both of them died in the process. So it's a really important record to me, and I think you should listen to it. It's instrumental, it's super uplifting, but also super melancholic, and you should check it out if you haven't. Departure Songs. All right, we're drawing to the end, so we're going to dig up a little quicker. White Moth, Black Butterfly. This is a tone. This is a really great album by Daniel Tompkins. He's the lead singer of Tesseract. He used to sing in Sky Harbor. He's one of my favorite vocalists of all time. This is a collaboration with him and a woman that I'm literally blanking on right now. But he's an English singer, and it's lovely. It's really peaceful, and it sounds really great. And if you haven't listened to White Moth, Black Butterfly, you should check that out. A tone. Next is a prog rock legend. We have a couple of his stuff. That is Steven Wilson. This is Grace for Drowning. This is really great solo stuff. The lead singer of Porcupine Tree. He used to lead that band. It's a really legendary prog rock band that's more modern, kind of Radiohead-esque. But this is my favorite album of his, Hand Cannot Erase. It's a really great concept record about kind of washing yourself away into something, in particular work and the modern world. So it's really great. And then I have a few more things. Chelsea Wolfe. This is Unknown Rooms, a collection of acoustic songs. Chelsea Wolfe is a really great singer and songwriter from California, and she is just fantastic. She's worked a little bit more on the industrial side of things and got a little heavier, but her acoustic stuff is my favorite stuff. This is my favorite record of hers, and that is acoustic song. That's Unknown Rooms right here. And then the last two things I have to show you, I have a couple things, I guess. The last thing I got to show you is Woods, just kind of like the easy listening of Monster Magnet. Woods is just a really fun band. It's got some psychedelic elements to it, like Tame Impala-esque, and so that's kind of how I would describe Woods. This is Woods, City Sun Eater in the River of Light. I couldn't remember the name. So this is a really great record of theirs. And then the last things I own are a couple things from my grandfather that I owned, and this is an old KTTS, Taking Pride in Springfield. He used to own the radio station here in Springfield, KTTS. He used to run it for 30 years. So this is a really cool thing that my grandpa had, and I really love it. And then the last thing I have back here is I have a Blues Brothers, I don't have the record itself. It's literally just the insert, so I don't have it. So, and then the other thing I have right here is just Music of Finland with the line "The Best Fit." This is just some kind of record store day this is just some kind of record store day exclusive. It's just got a couple of finished stuff to it. That's pretty much it. So thank you so much for checking out this video. I know it was a little bit longer than usual, but I hope you enjoyed my tastes.
Well, thank you so much for checking this little video out. I really appreciate all the comments, and I hope you're able to give me some more suggestions. As I expand my music knowledge, I'm really open to pretty much every genre of music. I have some staples that I really, really like that kind of speak to me, but at the same time, I'm literally open. Sorry about the glare, I put my glasses back on. But regardless, give this video a like, comment down below, share this video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I hope to see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.